leverages at the Kenya National Highways Authority. Where we are right now is at the River Weighbridge Station. This is where we weigh the vehicles to check if they are complying with the law relating to motor vehicle weight as per the East African Community Vehicle Load Control Act, which was operationalized in 2016. And we have been applying this law since 2019, more so after the regulations came out. At the station, we have the weight controls. We weigh the vehicles at the long scale here to confirm their conformities with the axle and the gross vehicle weight. And also, we also check, there's a legal requirement under the EAC Act, East African Community Vehicle Load Control Act, that every vehicle must be subjected to weighing at the weigh station. So we make sure that every vehicle has got weight checks. And because we would be having long queues if we were to weigh each and every truck, KeNHA has invested in and leverages on technology to be able to identify vehicles which are overweight and those which are compliant through intelligent electronic systems to be able to clear them as they move. So not every vehicle has to get into the weighbridge station for that. And all our weigh stations, we have got the high-speed weigh in motion technology, which does that. However, we encounter certain instances where some vehicles just drive past. They don't want to get into the weighbridge. And that one is a transgression or evading a weighbridge, which is a criminal offense under the East African Community Vehicle Load Control Act. And when we get such vehicles, we impound them and we charge them in court. So that one is dealt with as a criminal matter. But the weight aspect is dealt with administratively. The East African Community Vehicle Load Control Act decriminalized overloading. So if we impound a truck on the basis of being overloaded, we don't actually charge them in court. The law does not require us to charge them in court, but it does expect us to ask the person, based on the weight measured, to pay the overload fees, not fines. Fines are actually levied by the courts. Previously, before the East African Community Vehicle Load Control Act came into force, we used to have the Traffic Act. The Traffic Act criminalizes overloading, which requires that the transporter of the vehicle is charged in court and is the court to levy the fines. That is not the case in the issue in EAC. The EAC expects you to pay for the overload fees, then you offload the excess and you proceed. However, there are some instances where motor vehicles or vehicles stay longer than the period required of them to be able to address and comply. That law stipulates that after the third day, before the driver or the motor vehicle owner complies, he has to now pay parking fees, which accumulates after the third day. And this is at the rate of $50 for each day the vehicle stays at the weighbridge after the expiry of the third day. So we want it to be very clear that the overload fees that is collected here is in accordance with the Act. It is not a fine. It is an overload fee payable to the National Roads Authority, which in this case is the Kenya National Highways Authority. As we speak, all government agencies have their services paid for through the e-Citizen platform, which goes direct to the Treasury. And therefore, as Kenya National Highways Authority, we comply with the directive that all government agencies have their pay channel through the e-Citizen platform. And therefore, our systems, once an overload is detected, the ticket actually gives the payment details, the e-Citizen, the 22222, which is now being used countrywide, and an account linked to that. So all our payments are being done online. We don't receive cash. We don't receive bankers' checks. It is through the e-Citizen platform. And everybody, we want to ensure and to inform always, as we continuously do, that the payment platform is actually online. So there's a distinction. If we charge you in court, be the Traffic Act, elsewhere, then you know that one is a fine which will be paid for in court. Now, back to the EAC Act, we have a schedule of road network, which are very important roads for trade in our East African Community region. So these roads are actually gazetted as a schedule to the EAC Act. The first schedule of that act is about the East African Road Network, which covers those networks in Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, Burundi, South Sudan, and all our neighbors. These are the only roads where the act is applicable. So if we impound you on those road networks, just know you are going to be charged based on the EAC Act. The other road networks which are not gazetted or not in the first schedule are those roads where now the applicable law is the Traffic Act. If we impound you in those networks, then we actually have to charge you in court so that the courts can actually now make a determination and levy the fines appropriately according to your level of overload assessed. In doing so, we are supported by the National Police Service. There is a collaboration and support from other government agencies. We have the National Police Service, which helps with enforcement at all our weighbridge stations and also in our operations, including those that are on mobile patrols and all that. So we have the National Police Service. We also have Kenya Revenue Authority. We relate very closely with them because they have a cargo monitoring system, which is called the REX, the Regional Electronic Cargo Monitoring System. Once a truck leaves Mombasa to the destination, it is not supposed to leave the corridor. So this one is actually helping them to monitor whether they are fraud or where the goods are actually going to exit the country in a safe condition. The National Police Service also has got the Northern Corridor Patrol Team to ensure that goods that are actually carried through our Northern Corridor network is actually safe. There's no thuggery, there is no influence, the goods reach the destination in good order and condition. So these are some of the collaborative efforts that we get from our collaborating officers and the government agencies. We also have the judiciary. We have made steps in sensitizing the judicial officers on matters weighbridges so that they actually understand what overloading means to the Kenyan road network, to the East African road network, and that they also, the judiciary play its rightful role in helping to enforce the law. So when we charge accordingly, then the judiciary is aware of what is the applicable act, what is the applicable law, and the provisions, so that the organization KeNHA is not acting out of the legal framework. KeNHA, we always act within the stipulated legal framework. So at the weighbridge here, we have various teams. We have the officer in charge of the National Police Service, which is seconded to the Kenya National Highways Authority, the senior superintendent, John Gishoi. We have Dennis, our superintendent in KeNHA. We have George Ngugi, the manager for this particular station. And the manager actually oversees the activities here, the weighing process, the cleanliness of the facility, the functionality of the equipment at all times. They must be in good working order. We are also supported in that regard by the Weights and Measures Department, which calibrates our weighing scales. By law, we are required to calibrate our weighing scales once every year. And because we ensure that our weighing scales are ever accurate, we calibrate the weighing scales quarterly. That is 4 times a year. So we are way above the minimum threshold that is set by law. And we actually have displayed in each of our weigh stations the calibration certificates for the scales that we actually use. As I said earlier, we are always in the front lane of efficiency. So our weighbridge stations have got virtual weight systems. Not every vehicle has to get into the weighing stations for weight confirmation. If you are compliant, you will be cleared and you will actually go. You will not even need to stop because we have put our weighbridge, the high-speed weight motion system, and it is working. So we actually, we want to appeal to our transporters we want to appeal to the drivers, those who have with the vehicle each and every other time, to observe that you need to go into the high-speed way in motion for your weight screening. And if you see our green sign, you proceed. And if you are shown red, please don't divert. Just go in to the weighbridge session for us to confirm that the weight you have is correct, and you will be allowed to proceed. And if your weight is not within, then we'll actually ask you to be able to comply by first of all paying the prescribed overload fee. Then we actually allow you to offload the excess and you comply, and we release you to proceed. The fees that is charged at all the weighbridge stations in East Africa is in the US dollar. It is a standard rate. There's a schedule under EAC which is running from 2021 all the way to 2030 in US dollars. So we don't expect the overload fees schedule to change until 2030. So I would want to ask the officer in charge of the National Police Service, seconded to KeNHA, Mr. Gishoi, to also give a few comments. Welcome.
Thank you, sir. My name is John Gishohi. I'm a Senior Superintendent of Police. Currently the officer commanding Axle Road Enforcement and Highways Unit. The National Police Service entered into a memorandum of understanding with Kenya National Highways Authority, where police officers are specifically deployed to Kenya National Highways Authority in order to address issues that are related to Axle Road enforcement. That's the very reason we are here. And as engineer has said, there are two sets of laws that we enforce within the weighbridges as Axle Road control enforcement is concerned. One is East African Vehicle Road Control Act that, as the engineer has said, decriminalizes the matters of overloading. But in the same act, there are some criminal elements that requires to be handled by court, like evading weighbridges, altering documents, forgery of exemption ticket or weight tickets, evading weighbridges. These are some of the issues that we normally take to court in as far as East African Vehicle Road Control is concerned. However, in other road networks, we apply ourselves to the Traffic Act, and it is very specific on what we need to handle. We deal with matters overloading, matters of exceeded dimensions where the vehicles have exceeded or are carrying out of gauge cable, out of gauge luggage. These are the matters that we address ourselves to. We are here basically to ensure that all laws are followed. As you understand, the functions of the National Police Service are very well elaborate: maintenance of law and order, apprehension of offenders, and protection of life and property, prevention and detection of crime, and enforcement of all laws and regulations within this country. So we are here to assist KeNHA, contextualizing what the functions of the National Police are in ensuring that the maintenance of road is given the seriousness that it deserves. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I would ask the manager to step forward. You can give a brief highlight of what the management contractor, whom you represent, does at the station. Thank you.
And maybe as we do that, you give us the statistics of lorries that were caught overloading in the last 1 month. That's the month of August. On average, were caught overloading, as well as those on transit to other countries.
Thank you. My name's John Gugi. I'm the operations manager for this cluster that carries Juja, Athi River, and Isinya Way bridges. Currently, the traffic volume at Athi River goes to approximately 16,000 on both bounds, with only around 800 to 1,000 diverted for weighing. Currently, we rarely get overroads, especially from Mombasa, bearing in mind that our first two stations at Mariakani and Dongokundu are filtering any overroads coming up to the stream. The challenges that we've been facing is where the transporters are cleared at Mariakani, most of them end up carrying small cargoes on the way. Sometimes they even carry passengers. So you end up getting a difference of less than 500 kilograms between Mariakani and Athi River. So it's our appeal that the way the drivers are weighed at Mariakani or Dongokundu, they maintain the same level of loading all the way to Maraba. At the moment, unless there is issues of redistribution, issues of compliance within the northern corridor has really gone up to over 99%. And so we rarely get those major gross overloads. The only challenge we have is road networks that are short distance. Those local building materials ferrying trucks, carrying sand, stones, and ballast. So those are our main challenges within the station. So as you come to the station, you probably get a majority of them trying to redistribute. But unfortunately, we have to comply within the limits of axle roads and also the gross weight. So we keep checking on both. At the moment, our responsibility within the station is to ensure that all vehicles above 3.5 tons, as prescribed in law, both Traffic Act and East Africa, are actually diverted for weigh measurements, either through a high-speed weigh in motion that is already installed, and also for those that are filtered at the station. So for any vehicle that is found to be overloaded, we work very closely with the police officers attached to this station to ensure that they are provided the means of working within the station, including the transport to and from the court. So we are there as the people who are responsible for this facility, during maintenance and ensuring the neatness of the weigh bridge, and also ensure that they are all served within the station as prescribed. So I think those are the minimum we can do, but there is also a lot of things that we do. Thank you.
There have been concerns that complaints that those fees charged at the East African Axle Road Act are punitive. What is your comment on
The issue of the fines being charged, the overload fees being charged, being punitive is actually a matter of concern to the EAC partners. Remember, I said that we are implementing the overload fees regime for 2021 to 2030. There was an overload fees regime from 2011 to 2020. Now that one, the charges were actually very low. It was actually meant to sensitize and to wean off transporters so that they move away from overloading. This phase which we are now charging, 2021 to 2030, is meant to protect and to deter the overloading offense, overloaders from continuing with the habit of overloading. That's why the overload fees charge is steeper, to be able to deter completely overloading. Actually, we expect zero overloading. As you have heard from manager and from the records that they have, the statistics, the records that we have from the statistics, compliance on the northern corridor is above 99%, which means most of them are actually complying. Now, the less than 1% which is not complying, they actually have to face those steeper penalties so that they actually get off the route of violations. The cost of road construction is also going up by the day. Remember, this schedule is for 10 years. And the cost of road construction, if you look at it where it was 10 years ago and where it is today, there's a very huge difference, right? So to be able to protect the roads better, there has to be stiffer penalties to deter any person who may want to undermine that investment. Thank you.
You said that you charge fees in the corridor, not fines. Can you explain to ease of understanding what you mean by fees and other things that are charged?
What it means to charge overload fees derives from the aspect that overloading has been decriminalized. It is no longer a criminal offense to overload, but it is an administrative exercise to be able to correct a transporter once he has overloaded without subjecting him to the criminal justice system for purposes of weight correction. The idea was now that if we are going to charge fees, which is what the law provides, then it makes it quicker for somebody who has violated to be able to be afforded an opportunity to pay immediately, correct the load, come back to the scale for weight confirmation, then he is released, rather than subjecting them to court trials, which now delays their journeys. So this was actually meant to facilitate trade. You can actually be weighed this minute, you are overload, the next minute you are paid, the next hour you have removed your load, and you are actually going. So the goods will still reach the intended destination during the expected period. If we were to detain you here, first of all, under the Traffic Act, we have to take you to court within 7 days. All right? What if I don't take you to court in day 1? You are not taken to court in day 2. You are still here. And that was felt to be unfriendly, and that's why weight bridges were actually considered to be non-tariff barriers, because they were actually slowing down movement of goods along the corridor. So this act is actually very proactive in terms of dealing with the violation. And remember, we also want to make our port of Mombasa to be a port of destination. Therefore, the faster we clear goods upstream, the better to realize the port efficiency. Yeah, thank you.
You have got how many gazetted weight bridges and static weight bridges, and what are you doing to support transporters access basic facilities like toilets and other ablution services?
We have 11 gazetted weight bridge stations in the country. We know they are not enough to be able to monitor all our networks. And what we have done in those weight bridge stations, we have done amenities. Like if you look here at Mlolongo, we are operating on both sides. There are amenities on the other side and also on this side, where the drivers can relieve themselves as they sort out their weight correction. Now, this weight bridge was actually expanded through a grant and support from the World Bank funding that made us now to upgrade. The initial facility which was there was not like this. In fact, the name of this place earned itself from the Mlolongo, the queue. There was only weight confirmation on the other side. So if you are coming from Mombasa, you would actually have to turn and queue on that side. That is no longer the case. We have the weighing on this side, and you can see the facilities are okay. Yes, we have a proper holding yard, and we have the proper lanes, proper scales, proper weighing facilities. So we don't think that there is really an issue in terms of the status of the facilities. And even so, as an authority, we are looking forward to even making better our facilities and improving them each and every other time. Right now, you know, road development is also supported by development partners, World Bank, African Development Bank, EU. They have now put it mandatory for the authority to ensure that when they are funding a road project, there also has to be a weight bridge component to be able to protect that aspect. And this comes with all those amenities. So we are actually in the path of improving our weight stations each and every other time. We are also expected to build new ones, where we're also building new roads, so that our facilities are at par. I can confirm that this weight bridge, the standard of construction, is the one which is being adopted continentally in Africa. And very soon, we expect to move into a legal regime where vehicle loading law in Africa is one. Because Africa wants to trade with itself. So you're not supposed to get a different condition here as in Mozambique or as in DRC or Chad if you are to go there. So Africa, the AU is trying to bring the African continent closer and closer to trading with itself under uniform law to enable goods and services to move with ease.
Okay, the East African roads, for avoidance of doubt, which ones are the roads in Kenya that you consider when you enforce axle load as per the East African road?
During my initial comments, I mentioned the EAC Regional Trunk Road Network is captured under the first schedule to the EAC Act. Now, in our country, the EAC road, there is Lunga Lunga to Mombasa, to Malindi, to Lamu, all right? That is one of the EAC roads. We have Mombasa, Nairobi, Nakuru, Eldoret, Malaba. That is one network. There is the Rironi, this one going to Mai Mahiu, joining there. It's also part of the EAC network. We have the Loitoktok to Emali, joining Mombasa Road. That is also an EAC network. There is the Namanga, we call it the Namanga Corridor, joining Athi River here. And also the one going all the way to Moyale, Nairobi Thika Moyale is part of it. And also going through Embu and Meru. So that's also part of the EAC network. Now, as you head towards the Kisumu side, from Kericho, that is the Mau Summit, Kericho, Kisumu, Busia, that's also a regional trunk road network. And also from Ahero to Kisii, to Kisumu, Ahero to Kisii to Isebania, and also Kakamega, Webuye, all the way to our border with South Sudan. That is part of the regional trunk road network. So under those networks, properly spelled out in Schedule 1, first schedule to the Act, those are roads where EAC Act is applicable.
What has KeNHA done to sensitize the public so that they can easily comply?
As Kenya National Highways Authority, we actually invest a lot of our resources in sensitizing the transporters. We have sensitized the transit transporters. Of course, you read KTA. We have sensitized the local transporters, the TAK. These are the people whom the manager referred to as those who are moving short distances, carrying loose material. We have actually encouraged them even to form circles, whereby it is easy to address and talk to them. We actually have sensitized the judiciary. We have sensitized even members of the public through the mass communication systems which are available. And to us, sensitization is a continuous exercise. We want each and every day that the message should reach most of our stakeholders.
No other questions? Okay, before you disembark, I want a short interview, 1 minute. You are moving it somewhere. So for that, maybe you can talk about that.
Dwaroni nyakiting msigo mapekne oko kalo kipimo moketi monde magari ka gari onego ting kaluwore gi tiende motwene gari no. Wakwayo ukendo ni ng'ata man gi lori kata driver mora mora man gi gache nyaka ng'e ni oting'o osigo mowinjore gi machiko yiego. Wan gi kamipime pek mar msigo, achiel kuom gi ni Nairobi ka iluongo ni Mlolongo, wan gi Mombasa, Mariakani, Gilgil, Suswa, Webuye, Busia, to gi Rongo. Koro Webrige gite gintiere e bara nderni madongo ma jo East Africa community wacho ni magi nderni maber kodgi kuom weche mag ohala mag ting'o misike. Koro chik matiyo kanyo en chik mar East African Community manokal higa 2016. Koro nwachako rido wach chikni eri higa 2019 kane gimiluongo ni andiko matindo mag chik miluongo ni regulations nokel higa mar 2018. Koro sani kidhi Rongo, komaki Rongo, mano East African Community. Chikno ere mati ma jo East Africa o kata maro ma Kenya ka. Kidhi Busia, kidhi Gilgil, kidhi Webuye, kibiro Mulolongo ka, Isinya, Mariakani, mane chik matiyo. To chikni wacho ni koyudi ka iting'o mokalo kar ma oyie godo, to ichulo kar pek miting'o, to chajo gi $. Dola sani en siling 143 kata 45. Mano ero en nengo matek ahinya. Koro koyudi kamano nyaka ichul, eko yieni mondo igol msigo, iwar msigo mokalo no ero, aikete gari machielo, koro ka yieni mondo midhiyo. To mano chik dwaro mondo itim kuom ndalo 3 mokwongo bang' kosemak gari. Kokalo kanyo, to koro ichak ichaji gima miluongo ni parking fees, tiende ni ibedo keto gari kanyo, koro charges nitiere. Koro ichaji $50 kuom odiechieng' kodiechieng' mibedo go kanyo. Koro temane matek ni koponi gachi no maki ni oting'o mapek, titim gigi ekite itieki kapok ndalo 3 orumo mondo mi kik ichul parking. Nitie jok moko ma gechegi osebudho e weighbridge kuom ndalo mang'eny nikech ok ginyal chulo parking. Geche machalo kamago eko koro iuso, chik oyienwa mondo wausi bang' tok ndalo 60. Kwaseuso to wakawo pesa monego ichul, aeto modong' wawaro ni wamiyi kaka change mari. Koro mondo mi kik idonje e tabu machalo kamaeri, timane matek ni ka gima kamano nwang'i, to itim piyo piyo mondo ichudi mondo kik ichak imed garama e wi mane isenwang'o. Akwayo kendo ni ka uyie to mondo mi warit nderni magwa, nyaka wating' mana misigo mowinjore ma ok keth ndara, nikech ndara en gima ber, opidhowa kendo pidho ji te. Kamoro amora midhiye wadwa ndara, kamoro midhiye jopiny dwa ndara. Koro nderni kwasenwang'ogi mogo lambgi eki, nyaka waritgi, to kata moko go lambe nyaka wariti mondo kik gikethre mapiyo piyo, nikech garama mar loso ndara ni malo. Koro agonu erokamano kendo akwau ni mondo uyie utim kamano. Erokamano.
George, talk about the loose cargo.
George Gugi, nĩrũgamĩrĩire gĩtuo gĩkĩ kĩa Mlolongo na Juja na Isinya ya gũthima rori. Nĩngwenda kwarĩria andũ aitũ kũringana na watho ũrĩa umĩte wa mabũrũri ma East Africa, magerie kũthingatĩra watho ũcio, tondũ kũringana na ngari iria iranyitwo haha cia andũ arĩa marutaga wĩra ũtarĩ wa long distance, marakua mũthanga, makua mahiga just within the town. So turama request mageri kurora watho ucio, turakora watho ucio kuringana na rori mahũthagĩra ni rori nini, ti rori cia mbeca nyingĩ. Wakora rori ni ya milioni ta 3 kana 4, no wakua excess ugakora uretio milioni makĩria wa 20, ni ũkĩũrĩhe ta fine. Wakora nginya ndũngĩhota kũrĩ fine ĩyo, ũgatigĩra thirikari rori ta ĩyo. Wakora na thirikari yenyewe ndĩngĩhota kũrikava mbeca icio, tondũ nginya value ya ngari ĩyo nĩ ĩthiĩte kũringana na ũrĩa ĩhũthĩkĩte. Tarĩu he rori twĩna harĩa Isinya ĩrendwo ĩrĩhe milioni 28. No warora rori ĩyo ĩ njerũ nĩ rori ya milioni 13. Warora mũthanga ũrĩa ĩkuĩte ona ndũngĩkinyia ngiri 100. No mũthanga ũcio kũringana na watho wagĩrĩirwo ũkuĩtwo nĩ rori 3. Wakora andu makira umu thirikari ndiraka barabara wakora ngina andu ni mahandire marigu kuria barabara ni barabara guthuka no ukariganirwo barabara ni standard yayo ya gwakwo no wae wakiria urito wa ngari uthukie bara ugathi ku insight andu ona andu a bridge makurugamia uthime ngari wakora ni ku insight public muikagirie mahiga thigari na thigari ukamenya citikuite mahiga ikuite mucinga nigetha igeri kurora watho so ni go request andu itu murore muno kwanza barabara iyo ya Garissa Road kuria andu aria marutaga muthanga mwena wa Nakuru uguo Kiva na aria marutaga muthanga mwena ucio ungi wa Kitui makirehe Nairobi kana Thika na aria mararuta mwena ungi wa Machakos ukuhuthira Mombasa Road makorwo makirora muno watho ucio to kuringana na uria warora ngari iria cia haha holding yard iria twina cio haha uguo ni ngari makiria wa 10 na o ngari hatire na yagirwo kuria fine wa makiria wa milioni 10 no weka valuation ya ngari icio citirakinye so ku request andu itu muno mageri kurora watho ucio tutire haha uguo tunine biashara ya mundu twi haha uguo tuteithie marute biashara yao na efficiency njega tondu warora barabara njega ri ni kumanisha ofisi ya andu aria maratwarithia ngari ri i sawa no barabara njoru ri ni kumanisha na murigo ucio waku kuringa wetio ri ndungihota gukinya na a lot of efficiency so nitukumu request bio mweri kurora watho ucio yes thank you
ongelea maneno ya
no hamare twajitagwo John Wachuru wa Gicohi ni ofisa ore urugamiriire thigari iria cikoragwo iatacitwo KeNHA ni Inspector General wa borithi tuhote guteithania na ruhonge ruru rwa KeNHA kurumirira maundu na gucunga barabara citu iria ikoragwo ciakitwo na mbeca nyingi wira witu guku we bridges ni wira muhuthu ni wa kurumirira na kumenya kuona ati watho ni urarumirirwo uria kwagiriirwo na tukiruta wira ucio turutaga wira kuringana na sheria iria iri kuo guku bururi-ini wa Kenya na ni tuhetwo hinya ni Inspector General wa borithi tuhote kuhuthira ifa iria ciothe tuhetwo ni thirikari tukihota kuruta wira ucio atwira tuhote kucihuthira wega na kuringana na uria mawatho maitu ma bururi maroiga uguo wira uria tukaga turaruta guku wira ni kuhakikisha mundu wothe urakua kiwango kinene kioritu akorwo ari tukihũthĩra watho wa East African Vehicle Road Control Act wira witu ni kuhakikisha ya kwamba mundu ucio ni aikara guku wi bridge-ini kinya akarikia kuriha overload fee na ahote na achererwo arihe kinya parking fee acoke athondeke murigo na ngari yake kauma wi bridge iri compliant akorwo turi barabara iria ingira turahũthĩra Traffic Act wira witu ni gutwara mundu igoti-ini twamutwara igoti-ini atuirwo ku igoti-ini tukarumirira ni atuirwo ni igoti uria atuirwo ni igoti na toria mukio igoti rituagira mundu na rikamuhe nafasi ya ku appeal ona ithuĩ tuona ni turahinyiririo ri ona ithuĩ twandikagira igoti tukamera atiriri mundu uyu akuite kiwango giki igano agirirwo kuhurwo fine ino tondu Traffic Act ni irauga o mundu akuite kiwango kia murigo uria akuite kuringana akiritie kuringana uria kwagirirwo kuri fine iria agirirwo ni kuhurwo igoti-ini kuwa angihurwo ka fine kanini ni tuhota ona ithuĩ tuthiaga igoti tukera igoti rora haha mundu uyu agirirwo kuhurwo fine iganona na riu arahurirwo ka fine kanini na magoti ni matuthikiriirie kuria mundu ahuritwo ka fine kanini High Court ikarurire kauga mundu arihe fine iria yagirirwo uguo basically ucio niguo wira uria ithuĩ turaruta guku wi bridge na tugakira tukiruta wira ucio na guteithiriria thirikari itu gucunga mabarabara maitu kuri mweri tocio urathirire ungiheana ta riu njuge mweri wa kanano ucio urathirire nituhotete kunyita marori ta 70 uguo within Nairobi ika we bridge iri Nairobi tukanyita marori ta 70 uguo na mothe ni tuhotete kumatwara igoti-ini na aria mahotete kuga ni makuriha overload makariha no toria uria urugamiriire itwezi cia bridge arauga ri kuri okuo ngari ikuite uritu muingi kinya mwene erwo ahota kuriha overload fee ndangihota kuriha haha oguo hena ngari yagirwo kuriha milioni riria twamenyite yagirwo kuriha milioni 13 riu ni giikarangite koguo mbeca icio kuringana na parking fee no ithiite ikongerereka alafu kuri Isinya yagirwo kuriha milioni 28 riu milioni icio 28 riu static 28 tondu o muthenya ni irariha parking fee na parking fee ukiringana ni $50 riu ukiringana na rate ya riu uguo ni iguka hakuhi 7,000 uguo ni mbeca iraugeka ire nyingi ndingihota kumahoya mathie na andu marumirire watho makue murigo uria wagiriire na matikabunje watho tondu makibunja watho twacemania nao kuu barabara-ini nitukuhokia kumaoera hatua kuringana na sheria. Thank you.
Maybe ya mwisho kabisa ni kwako meneja, kuna wale wanasema kwamba hii kumekuwa ni kituo kile madereva wanakuja wanahongana hapa wanaweza kupitisha mzigo wanabeba excess weight. Sijui maoni yako ni gani, because kuna ile tetesi ama fununu inakuwa ikitembea huko kwamba hapa kwa hii bridge hapa ndio maneno yote kila
tuko na mikakati ya kuangazia madereva na wale ambao wameajiriwa kufanya kazi hapa wasipitishe wafanye kulingana na kanuni zenye ziko. The moment a vehicle steps onto the scale, already it is in our system. So there is no way somebody is going to tell you that I'm going to help. We have systems. The moment it's captured, that is it. So the beauty with systems is that the human element in discussion is removed. So we just want to remove that fear, because at the weighbridge we don't have aspects of maybe you think you can compromise somebody. How do you compromise it? Yes, the person who is weighing you has no access to direct the system what to do. The moment a vehicle is approaching the scale, already the camera system has already picked its details, and when it is on the scale, it has been weighed, there's a record. So you don't make a mistake of being cheated that somebody is going to help you. There's no help like that. Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's good enough. Delivery zangu zote ziko pale.
Hii ni ya kuponyesha hawezi. Niko hapo. Ndio kubarua kutoka.
Na hii iko na hapo na
Hebu tuone kwa ile sad.
Hiyo niko na ticket. Gani?
Sasa hizi umeangazia hivi.
Video ya Samira.
This is the one for 13 million.
Anasema hilo iko supposed to
13 million.
why?
This one overloaded by 25 tons. So he's supposed to pay 1 million. But plus parking fees.
George, nataka unielezee hii lori inafanya nini?
Is ready? Now, this vehicle was impounded in January this year, 2023, on 27th of January 2023. And it was found to have an overload of 25 tons. Now, under the EAC Act, is supposed to pay overload fees of 13.9 million if you convert Kenya shillings. So he is yet to pay that money. And he's also since that time accumulated parking fees at the rate of $50. So right now, maybe somewhere around 15-16 million that is supposed to pay. And of course, you can see it carried way beyond. Now this one has got a very serious effect in crashing. It's actually crashing the road as it goes. And you know, roads are actually our lifeline. They ensure that we move efficiently, and we are supposed to move within a reasonable time so that we also achieve the efficiency we require in the movement of goods and services. But when the road is actually damaged, then it's actually leading us to have potholes on our highways. And of course, you know, we members of the public actually complain about poor roads, bad roads. We don't want our roads to pass. So we actually retain the rear until they comply. So I would say that such vehicles, we have many of them. Right now at EAC, we have a vehicle which we impounded last month, carrying 30 tons overload. That one is yet to pay 28.5 million overload fees. Yes. So we are waiting for them to comply. And we have vehicles which have also overstayed. Like you see the ones which have got vegetation overgrown on them. Those vehicles that are beyond 60 days old. We'll actually publish the names, the vehicles for auction. We'll kickstart the process of auctioning those vehicles so that we recover the overload fees, and as we say, give them change. Overload parking, and then we give them change. No problem.
And kuna balance pia.
And it's also one for know
Kama kuna balance.
they only have 3 days. 3 is the overall fee. Beyond there is parking fee. Parking fee is $50 per day. 3 days.
You have 3 days to sort out the overload fees. Beyond 3 days, then you will still pay the overload fees plus the parking fees at the rate of $50 a day. Yes.
Okay. Iko sawa. So we